Welcome to Wisdom for Wannabes, the podcast that seeks wise words in business, beauty, and betterment. I am the host, Jackie Moriali. Today, we're joined by Dr. Amy Todey, a Harvard-trained psychologist, parenting and co-parenting expert, and the founder of Todey Psychology. Dr. Todey's work sits at the intersection of science and real life, high conflict co-parenting, and the everyday emotional complexities of raising children in a fast-moving world. But beyond the clinical training and research, she's also a mother of three, a lifelong athlete, and someone who believes deeply in resilience, connection, and the idea that even the messiest seasons of family life growth is possible. Go, Amy. Dr. Amy Todey, welcome to Wisdom for Wannabes. It is so great to have you here today.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And I just wanted to clarify, I don't just have three kids, I have three boys. So I am a boy mom, and that's a different thing than just three kids, you know?
I have the one boy, and yes, I totally understand. Three of him would be a very different dynamic.
We have a very busy house.
I'm sure. Can you just start us off with your full name, where you're from, and a little bit about what you do?
Yes, Dr. Amy Todey, and I practice primarily in Atlanta. I also have a Boston office. I spend a lot of my free time in Maine. My family has a historic house there. I love the outdoors. I'm a huge sports fan. We spend a lot of time with our kids. We try to go on adventures and get into the world as much as we can. And I'm absolutely passionate about psychology, about helping families, and about what I do.
What is your favorite part of being a psychologist, of being an entrepreneur, of everything that you do professionally?
There's so many things that I love about it. The heart and soul of what I do is really helping families find their way back to each other. I really believe in families, and not perfect, curated families, but the messy, ever-changing families. Families are always in motion. With each of those changes, there are inflection points that really are a breeding ground for conflict and feelings. Often those things happen within the context of families of people that really love each other and want connection and belonging. I really believe that almost in any circumstances, families can find their way back, they can repair, and they can go through hard times and then bounce back and be healthy again. That's what I love the most about this work, is the healing and the connection and belonging that I get the privilege of helping restore.
You are a lifesaver for so many families. What a special place to be in your career, and to have that be your favorite thing. How many years have you been helping families in this way?
I trained until 2015. So I've been doing it a little over 10 years. I started at Boston Children's Hospital, and I was there for 5 years. Then I started a private practice in Boston, and I gave it to my friend who still has a wonderful neurodevelopmental clinic in Woburn called Touchstone. She took everything we learned at Children's in Boston and moved into a private practice. When I'm here, I practice out of her office. Our family moved to Atlanta, and I started a private practice there. I respecialized just a little bit. I was in neurodevelopment and broadened what I did to support families across multiple different aspects or areas of their life. So I do some high conflict divorce work. I also do a lot of grandparenting and parenting work now. I really love the diversity of what I do.
Was there a point early in your career where you thought, this is the kind of psychologist that I wanted to be? Or did that just evolve naturally over time?
I feel like I've always known I love human beings. It's easy for me to see goodness in people. I think that people will do good if they can. Kids are that way too. If kids can do good, they will. That's the approach that I have to parenting and helping kids. For adults, none of us want to be held to our worst moment. We all have flaws and things that we have done that we're not proud of. That's what being human is. What human beings can tend to do is they feel shame and they want to hide that from the world, and that can lead to all kinds of other problems. I've always been the kind of psychologist that wanted to honor the humanity in people and help them understand that we are way more connected than we are different. I'm living that dream right now.
You are really living the dream. That's so beautiful. Even just to start the conversation with, I love people. I think we all need to approach other people with that kind of empathy. You're able to connect and see the good in people. When we first met, my feeling was, wow, you just have such a Zen presence. Every patient must walk out of the conversation, out of your practice, feeling brand new, like a million times better, and are very fortunate to have you in their lives.
Well,
for
I
sure.
appreciate you saying that, and I certainly hope that they do. The goal of therapy is for people to have a corrective emotional experience so that their flaws can be seen, the things they're not proud of, their shame can be seen, and someone can still say, I'm here. You're good enough just as you are.
Beautiful. You've trained at places like Harvard Medical School, and you've worked in these super high intensity clinical environments. You mentioned Boston Children's. Was there anything that surprised you when you moved into private practice and working with families, parents, divorcees, grandparents?
I have had the privilege to train in amazing places. Anyone who's ever had the opportunity to work in a Harvard Medical School teaching hospital or any Boston hospital, the learning is amazing, not just because of the didactics or the environment, but also because of the people it attracts. The hardest parts about going into private practice is the isolation of it. When you're working in an organization like a hospital, the consultation opportunities, friendship making opportunities, the ability to practice together is just ingrained. Moving into private practice, I've really had to create that for myself and build those relationships on my own. I absolutely could never, ever practice on my own. I have to have people that I can call and that will show up in times, because psychology as a practice can be hard. It just can get really hard emotionally. There's burnout, but it also can get hard to know what to do in certain tricky situations where you're trying to do the best for a family, but you don't quite know how to do that. There's new situations all the time. One of the biggest challenges is just, how do I create a thriving practice that involves still collaborating with other professionals?
I love the fact that you built a practice up north and were able to sort of hand it over to a colleague, and it's still a thriving business that you're now able to practice at during some months of the year. From the other team members that you put together that I have interacted with, everybody gives me the same feeling that I have right now, which is this really nice, connected feeling of living our best lives. Again, like, you really love people. That's not true for everyone.
It's not. No, it is not true for everyone. Yes. I do love people.
It shows. So before we get too deep into the psychology world that I know you live and breathe every day, let's do some quick fire questions to get to know you, Dr. Amy Todey. Sounds
Great.
good?
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds good.
We'll try to keep it light to start. Coffee or tea to start your day?
All the way.
Favorite sport? Because I know you're a lifelong athlete.
Basketball.
Ooh, to play or to watch?
I love to play basketball. I played basketball in high school and I played in France. I played in Europe for a couple of years I know it was the most amazing experience of my life. Then I refereed women's college basketball for years. I actually refereed a lot of Division I conferences in the Northeast. My husband referees SEC men's college basketball, so he travels up and down the East Coast refereeing. We are a big basketball family.
So look, I'm sure that being a psychologist has its issues, burnout, very difficult, but being a referee, I'm sure that you have had some difficult games and days. That is not an easy position.
It's not. It's super fun. It keeps you really close to the game. You develop a thick skin to stuff like that. It's all part of the experience, I guess. I do live vicariously through my husband. I still get all the stories.
Oh, I'm sure there's lots of stories. But do you have a favorite team? If it could be a basketball team. The Boston Celtics.
All the way.
An amazing team with some history. I can see why basketball runs deep in the Todey family.
You haven't had the experience of the TD Garden in Boston. You haven't had a basketball experience. It's amazing.
Ooh, I'm on my way. I'm ready. I'm a native New Yorker. This was a very exciting basketball time in our lives.
Such an exciting time.
Yes, such an exciting time for the Knicks. Anyway, I digress. Hidden talent.
Gosh, hidden talent. I speak French. That's probably something a lot of people don't know about me.
Do you ever offer sessions in French to French-speaking patients?
I've done that before, yes. Actually, I've had families who I have felt really grateful that I had that skill. I had an immigrant family who did not speak English. They're from a French-speaking country in Africa, and their child desperately needed an evaluation, and I was able to do it. I love using those skills in session.
One myth about parenting.
Myth about parenting is that there is a perfect way to do it or a right way to do it. Parenting is very embedded culturally. There's lots of different ways that families show love. Some people show love through nurturance, some through food, some through discipline or teaching. There's not one way to do this. Parenting is messy. The core of parenting for me, no matter whether your child is under 18 or an adult child, is really around repair. Understanding that relationships all have moments that are hard, especially when someone is growing up. falling back on that ability to say, I'm sorry. That is really important for all parents to learn and teach their kids as a skill. There's a lot of different ways to embrace parenting for sure.
A family ritual that you love.
Our biggest family ritual is an intergenerational ritual. We have a historic house in Maine that was my grandmother's house. It used to be Elizabeth Arden's way back in the 30s. It's beautiful, kind of falling down. It's in Belgrade Lakes region, really beautiful region of Maine. Our entire family convenes there in the summer. Everyone is in and out for about 2 months. We just spend time working on this house. We spend time fighting with each other, as families do. I say that as a joke. Of course, there is that in all families. A lot of really great memories that we make there. Our kids have their cousins and aunts and uncles, and it really makes me feel like we're raising them to be rooted in their people.
Cousins reunion in Maine sounds incredible. And it sounds pretty fun to be working on a 1930s house with the rest of your family. That definitely is the recipe for arguments and memories right there. We're on vacation, but we're going to work on this 100-year-old house.
We're going to scrape walls and repaint them. And
yes, teamwork makes the dream work. Imagine it's a big basketball team. Give everybody a paintbrush.
Exactly.
One thing that you wish that schools taught kids better.
First of all, teaching is the most thankless job ever. I do, in general, think that kids need more unstructured time outdoors, time to work things out on their own, less screens. I generally wish that schools would go back to being a little bit more analog, more hands-on and more project-based. My kids get 20 minutes or 30 minutes of recess. I think they need more time than that, especially at younger ages. What you're learning is all those social skills and creativity and problem solving and how to regulate emotions, and all of that is core to everything that comes after it.
My kids' favorite time of day is those 20 minutes of recess, and they definitely fly by. And almost the rest of the school day is on a screen. So I think that's really amazing advice. Mm-hmm. One thing that your children have taught you.
The thing that comes to mind is forgiveness. My children are so quick to forgive and to have empathy and to understand. They don't really hold grudges. They don't stay upset with me for long. Even when I've lost my temper, or they're upset because they didn't get the thing they wanted or the schedule changed. They're very raw with their humanity. Adults are a lot more guarded and defensive. We've just been through more. Without corrective emotional experiences over time, we can get really cynical and stuck. My kids have taught me the power of seeing people as humans and seeing them for their best selves, and understanding that people make mistakes and we can repair and move on.
What is one book that you would recommend to parents?
Positive Discipline. It's a book by Jane Nelson. I just love that book. It forms the foundation of a lot of teachings and the way that schools handle discipline. It's like the joy of cooking for parenting. I read and reread that book. I send it to parents all the time. I use it in my practice. It's really founded on this idea that we shouldn't do things for kids that they can do for themselves. Children learn best through natural consequences. There's a lot of ideas of repair in that book as well. I just love it. It's good for strategy as well for philosophy.
One book that changed your life or that you really love to read?
One of my favorite books ever is a really old book called The Count of Monte Cristo. It's by Alexander Dumas. It's a beautiful story. Yeah. I tend to like things that are grounded in historical context and have really good messages around it.
I have such a visual from that book. It's so beautiful.
It's so
the
cool,
French opulence and countryside and love story. What is one phrase that you find yourself saying often in session, if there is one?
I definitely have phrases that I come back to. One thing that I try to remind parents of a lot is just that children and humans in general are wired for belonging and connection. When belonging is threatened or severed, that is when we see people behave in sort of desperate ways. Whenever you're having a rupture with someone, whether that's your adult sibling or your child or your parent, that connecting first and reminding people of the bond that exists that you're trying to preserve, working through a conflict or setting a boundary, those things are in service of preserving a relationship. It's always helpful to start with the connection point first and then move from there. If threat to belonging is activated, people are going to be in a very emotional place. It will be hard for them to hear what you're actually trying to say. If they're reassured of connection and belonging, they tend to relax a little bit.
Such great advice. It's practical, but it's something that I've never really thought of before, to first make someone feel like they belong and they're connected already. Favorite quote for life, Dr. Amy Todey? if you
That's
have
a
one.
really deep one. It's something around that people are built to belong. We're wired that way. We need each other. We need love. We need teamwork. We need to work together to get through this beautiful life. We're social animals. I worry that in a world that is increasingly dominated by technology, people are increasingly technologically connected, but much less physically and emotionally connected. We live a lot of our lives superficially. We may lose the very thing that makes human beings human. Thinking about AI tools and how people are connecting to technology that isn't even grounded in a human being. It's really important that we examine that and make sure that humanity is part of the conversation at the core of everything we're doing.
I can only imagine your thoughts on AI as a psychologist. That must be a very challenging topic.
It is. I love AI, though. I'm not here to hate AI.
Right.
It's
But
part of our evolution.
it's part
Right.
of our evolution.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some of the conflict areas that you work in. You work with families in some of their most emotionally charged moments, like divorce, conflict, uncertainty. What helps you stay grounded during this kind of emotional intensity?
My core approach to human beings helps me stay really grounded. It is in my nature to try to find the person underneath the conflict to attach to. Inherently, I know that people behave in ways that hurt others because they're hurt themselves and because they're struggling with something. What we all need is to know that we're good enough as we are. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to move on from them. Everyone's in the same boat when it comes to that as human beings, that I can see their shame, the things they're unafraid of, and still show up for them, still stay, still honor the goodness that I see inside of them and what they're trying to do. That helps with a lot. If you have a positive view of people and you know that there is a vulnerable human being underneath the defensiveness, it's much easier to not be triggered by something that somebody says.
You often talk about balancing empathy with challenge. What does that look like when a family might be feeling stuck?
It's a really important skill for therapists to have. There's a risk in therapy of over-validating. Clients have to know that we are on the same side of the problem, that we see their goodness, that we have unconditional positive regard for who they are as human beings. But our clients are also all here asking for help to change something. Change doesn't come from being comfortable. If you're comfortable, there's no reason for change. I'm not the type of therapist that's going to intentionally make people uncomfortable, but I try to not rescue people when they're struggling with discomfort. I try to reassure them that I'm here and that I see their goodness, and at the same time, the choices they're making that may be coming from a very vulnerable or wounded place, or may even be coming from a good place, but those decisions have a role in the conflict or the problem that they're having in their life. If people can own their role in things, they have some level of control. If people remain in a place where they see themselves as a victim of life circumstances or as a victim of a relationship, but they want somebody else to do the work of change, I can almost guarantee you that nothing different is going to happen for them. That's a dream and a wish and a hope. We all have to radically accept the circumstances in front of us and say, what decisions do I have that I can make that will make life better, help resolve this? That's what I mean by challenge. Remembering that we don't have control over others and what they choose to do. We really don't have control over a lot of what happens in life, but we can control how we respond to it.
We can only control our own response. Empowering. What is one shift that can dramatically improve parenting or co-parenting, even when communication may feel impossible?
For both parenting and co-parenting, I will go back to radical acceptance. We have to accept things as they are. It doesn't mean that we have to like them or agree with them or condone them. Those things are different. We don't have to condone bad behavior to be able to accept that it exists. If we are fighting reality, that's where all of our energy is going. It will leave us in a perpetual state of not being able to take actions in the ways that we can. There's a lot of people I work with, for example, who grieve a mother or a father that they wish they had. That's real. It's real. You may have a mother who didn't show up for you or wasn't really interested in coming to your events or activities or games, or maybe didn't really acknowledge or honor your emotional experiences. That can be really hard and vulnerable and difficult for a child to grow up in a situation like that. That same mother may also offer a lot of other things that you needed, like stability, or maybe they taught you creativity, or maybe they taught you how to cope with adverse life circumstances because they weren't helicoptering things for you. If we're fighting reality, it's going to be hard for us to honor the complexity of a whole human being or the complexity of a whole circumstance. To have authentic relationships, we have to be able to see both strengths and faults in both in ourselves and in other people. Of course, relationships aren't perfect. Of course, you didn't have a perfect mom. I didn't have a perfect mom. There's a mother that I grieved, but there's also a mother that I had. If we can't see and honor and love the person in front of us, we're going to be left with very, very few people to love.
It was like hitting with a ton of truth right there, looking at everyone for both their good and their flaws and loving them no matter what. It not only makes me think about when I was a kid, but also makes me question the way that I'm mothering my own kids now. And I hope that I'm not doing too bad of a job. That's such an interesting thing to grieve the loss of a mother who you wish that you had, or a parent, a father, guardian. I can only imagine the awesome mom that you are for those 3 boys. They must know themselves inside and out, be able to react confidently to situations, just to have the best demeanor and sportsmanship on the basketball court. I could just envision all these beautiful family moments.
Oh my gosh. It is really not like that. It's kind of like the joke about an accountant that they don't have their finances in order. It's kind of like
the shoemaker with the holes in the shoes.
I am not a perfect parent. That is something that I really, really try to humble myself to with other people. Don't compare yourself to me. So many people come to me in co-parenting, and what's happened is in a court process, their very worst parenting moments have all been litigated and highlighted. Would you, Jackie, want someone to highlight every mistake you made as a mom, every time you yelled, that time that you were sick and tired? We have all done things we're not proud of. So that's really not a standard I hold myself to. What I do want is to be a parent that's always approachable. I want to be a parent that leads with love always. I say to my kids all the time, I love you even when I'm angry with you. In those moments, I still love you. Feelings are very different than that core bond. I don't even strive to be a perfect parent because I don't want my kids to strive to be perfect kids. That's way too much pressure for anybody to put on themselves. It makes it really hard to have the humility to acknowledge failure and say, yeah, I messed this up.
And just circling back to your kids teaching you forgiveness. Yeah, that's so beautiful. Let's talk more about kids and childhood development. You have written about life skills like empathy, responsibility, self-control. What do you think the kids need most today? Maybe it's love based on what you just said.
Love is the ultimate value. The greatest virtue is love. Everything flows from that. It's in love and empathy and forgiveness and compassion, all of those virtues that are in relationships with others, understanding that we actually can forgive really hard things in other people, people who have hurt us. We can choose to forgive. Forgiveness is as much for yourself as it is for somebody else. It doesn't mean that that person shouldn't or isn't accountable. It doesn't mean it's okay what they did. It really just means like, I see your humanity. We can forgive people who aren't asking for forgiveness. We have empathy for them. I wouldn't want to live our lives with that level of anger, hostility, or angst.
That's right. Yeah, it does worse for you and you can't move on and you feel stuck. How much of a child's emotional health comes from what their parents say versus what they do?
I think both are important. I will say that. I am definitely a big behavior modeling person. If you want your children to be respectful and treat people with respect, treat them with respect and show them that. I do think what you say matters. Once you say certain things, you cannot take them back. It's really important that you measure words with kids because you just don't know what they're going to hold on to.
How do you measure words with kids? Just so I have an action step here, because that sounds like a good idea.
There are certain boundaries that I will not cross with my kids. I am not a person who's never used profanity around my kids, right?
Okay.
Drop something on my
Check
toe.
that box off for me too.
Say, shit, I dropped that on my toe. But using demeaning, disparaging, hostile language toward kids, using profanity towards kids, I don't let myself go there. I might think it. I might be like, oh, you're being a little right now in my head, but that's not what they're doing. And I know that to breach that boundary really is just losing emotional control. If I don't have those guardrails for myself, those rules for myself in an emotional moment, I could, right? Because again, I'm human. But what helps me is understanding that there's just certain places that we don't go in our family. One of them is name calling, really harsh criticism, saying demeaning things, attributing a child's behavior to a flaw or a negative part of their character, speaking in absolutes like always and never. We don't give kids any space for being able to redeem themselves if we speak in hyperbole in that way. We have rules, and those rules apply, by the way, not just to me, but also to our kids. Our kids are much more likely to cross them. My husband and I are, just because we're adults and we have more developed frontal lobes. But when they do that, if they tell their brother, shut up, or you're stupid, or whatever the things are, they have to do something to give back to our family. They have to do something kind for someone, or they have to do an act of service, wash the dishes for us or clean the bathroom.
Love this idea. I am implementing it today.
Right, exactly. I'm like, the toilet is dirty. So if you guys want to go there, there's a lot of things you can do.
It's so practical. When you were going through the idea of calling your kids names that associate with bad features, I just felt like a kid being pounded on. Imagine that kid grows up. You can't really have a functioning part of society, let alone your own family, if you were treated that way growing up.
Well, they definitely internalize all of that. Yes. They internalize it as messages toward themselves. There's a lot of damage that needs to be undone. Yes. Differentiating a child's behavior from their intentions or their behavior from who they are as a person. I say to my kids, I know you didn't mean for that to happen, or I know that's not who you are. So when you treat your brother that way, it's really confusing for me because no, that's not who you are. That really helps to validate the soul underneath. They can say, I'm really not that person. And I do feel sorry for doing that. They come to it on their own.
Wow. You really can keep your calm through anything. Again, back to those
don't.
referee skills. Just deal with anything.
The thing is, there is a timeless nature of parenting. You can always come back to a moment and say, I was so angry this morning and I think I really overreacted when you dropped that egg on the floor. I think that probably really hurt your feelings and I'm really sorry about that. I was having a hard day. You didn't deserve that. It doesn't mean you don't need to be more careful with the egg, right? You can always come back. You can always repair or start a repair process with your family.
And if you genuinely can apologize and feel sorry about your reaction to something like an egg on the floor or spilled milk, right, that is an action step that you can take and have control over.
Totally.
You also work with neurodevelopmental evaluation for learning differences for children. What do you wish that more parents understood before the evaluation process? Anything that can maybe help parents remove the fear of labels into understanding and being empowered?
Yeah. It comes down to radical acceptance. You are parenting the child that is in front of you, and there is grief in that. I have that with all three of my kids in different ways. Not that they're not who I want them to be. It's not that. It's more like I see them when I see their struggles and say things like, Mom, I'm the least popular kid in my friend group. It just breaks my heart. I grieve for him that he is struggling to be successful in that way. At the same time, I'm not going to snowplow for him or helicopter that situation. He has to get through it. It's part of growing up. Understanding that a diagnosis isn't an identity. It really isn't. It is a way that explains how kids' brains work. All three of my kids have ADHD. We're super loaded on both sides of my family. I talk about it with everyone because I'm like, so what? My son was so funny. It was Thanksgiving dinner. This is when he was first diagnosed. He was maybe 8 or 7. Grandma, guess what? I have ADHD. I have the whole thing, all of it. He notes this diagnosis. Because when we shared with him the results of testing, we shared it in this way, like, bud, you are an amazing kid. People with ADHD, that diagnosis is associated with energy and creativity and outside of the box thinking and pushing limits of things. I was so happy for him. First, because I knew we'd be able to support and help him and his teachers would understand him, but also because I'm like, good for you. You get to show and use your gifts in a different way. And there will be struggles. I'm not trying to sugarcoat. There's a lot of pain in that diagnosis too, but I don't ever want my child to think there's something wrong with him. We have to understand ourselves. This is just one tool that we can use to understand ourselves.
I love that you use the word gifts. If someone is listening right now who may feel overwhelmed as a parent, co-parent, or other guardian, what is one thing that you would tell them?
The things that we don't name tend to own us. The things that we avoid tend to make our anxiety worse. I have that in my life too. But the minute we name it, it gets smaller. The minute we face it, it gets smaller. If you're talking about a diagnosis or a concern for your child, it's just information. It's information that the earlier you intervene on anything with kids is better. Their brains are so plastic and primed for learning. I just encourage people to find the support you need to take steps toward asking the question that you're afraid of.
Shout outs to anybody who's helped you get to where you are today, Dr. Amy Todey.
I appreciate you asking me that. My very close friend and colleague, Dr. Carrie Morris, she is the colleague and friend I have who has a practice in Boston. She is an amazing psychologist, friend in person, and she runs an amazing neurodevelopmental clinic in Woburn, Mass, just north of Boston.
What's the name of her practice?
It's called Touchstone Neurodevelopment Center. She runs it with another colleague of ours, Dr. Allison Schonwald. She's a developmental behavioral pediatrician, equally amazing, so skilled, very highly trained and compassionate. Compassion is at the heart of everything they do. Definitely want to shout out to her. And also my colleagues back in it, Dr. Allison Hill, who is the best of the best in terms of co-parenting and high conflict divorce work. Dr. Kristen Crothers, who was recently featured on Trevor Noah. Kristen has the most warm, loving demeanor with children. I've learned so much from her. Those are the three colleagues that I want to honor.
We all need more colleagues and friends like that.
Totally.
You really keep a beautiful village around you. That's what you exude. So that's what comes back to you. Thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Where can people get more? Dr. Amy Todey, what's the best way for people to work with you or with your colleagues?
If you're working with me, I have a wonderful website. It's TodeyPsychology.com. My last name is Todey. It's a little tricky. So you can reach me there. I'm building a following on Instagram. My handle is Dr. Amy Todey, same spelling. Find me there as well. I work with people across the country. People consult with me from all four corners of our country. They try to consult with me internationally, but I can't because of my license. I love working with people from diverse areas.
You really are making such an impact on so many families around the country. I can't wait to see what you do next, Dr. Amy Todey. You are a force of nature. Thank you for all you do.
I'm very grateful to you, Jackie, for having me on this show. And you equally have such a positive, warm, uplifting demeanor. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Sending lots of love. Bye.